And then projects on the horizon. With the COVID-19, we would probably have a lot more projects lined up over the next couple of years, but for the next year, due to the uncertainty with the sales tax and so forth, we're really limiting our projects. So the one project we're looking to really work on next year will be the Pleasant Lee project. That'll be a park renovation of Pleasant Lee Park, which is located close to Pleasant Lee Middle School. We're also going to be adding 2 art pieces to our parks. The one on the left is going to go at Summit Park, and the one on the right will be added out at the Legacy Park Amphitheater later this spring. So what are we looking at for the next several years? I want to highlight a few things. There's a lot of information on the next several slides. I'm just going to highlight a few. But in 2016, we revised our strategic plan. In that strategic plan, it was obviously driven by our community. We ended up with 8 community priorities and 33 goals. So this is our focus for the next several years. The sales tax from that was approved in 2016 is what drives the funding for these projects. So you can see that one goal was to develop a neighborhood park acquisition development. So we're going to continue to build neighborhood parks where appropriate and where we can, and to develop existing properties that we have that are not developed. But a couple things I would highlight: we want to add additional practice space for our youth sports programs. That is been a challenge for as long as I've been in Lee Summit, for 20 years, and it will continue to be a challenge. So we want to try to help find spaces for our youth to practice. And then one goal that the Parks Department has and our community has is that we develop a park within a half mile of every resident where it's feasible. So we are focused on those efforts as best we can. The second goal was neighborhood park renovations. So what we heard when we were going through this process is that, hey, Joe, we love the parks. They're great. They're in great shape. But as we move forward and we do some of these other cool projects, please don't lose the quality of our neighborhood parks. And so we've really focused a lot of time and effort over the last couple of years on neighborhood park renovations. I've already mentioned Summit and Howard, but things that were important and you'll see in these renovations over the next several years is shelters, shade, restrooms. Our community really wants fully functioning restrooms that are open all year round. So we're going to work on that. Outdoor fitness equipment, nice, cool playgrounds, climbing structures. And then one other thing I'd highlight in this goal is the addition of splash pads in our areas of the community that are underserved by water play opportunities. A lot of our community has neighborhood pools, but there's also sections of our community that don't have those opportunities. So we're adding splash pads where we can, and we actually have one more splash pad to add over the next couple of years, and I think we will have met that goal. So we're pretty excited that we're able to add those. Community outdoor facilities. So the community has asked for a number of those. Some of them we've already taken care of. Ice, we've got ice at Summit Ice. I'm not going to hit any of these, but you can see, and then the wave pool at Summit Waves are 2 of the big projects that we have been most recently focused on, but those are some of our outdoor facilities. Then the community said, hey, we still have a need for some indoor facilities, and one of the big ones is the field house. The field house would help serve, again, our youth with practice needs and indoor activity space in the wintertime. You see a picture up there with indoor turf. A lot of people ask me, what's going to be in the field house? Well, it'll probably be hard court space, and there probably will be some soft space like this turf. So that's a facility that we're hoping to be able to move on in the next maybe 3 to 5 years. But location is a challenge for us right now, and we continue to find a good spot for that facility. Another goal was trails, greenway, and blueway development. One thing I can tell you is our community loves trails, and so we continue to work with our public works department to help to develop trails throughout our community, and we develop trails in our parks. And I kind of mentioned the single track up at Legacy. Well, we know that that was an area that was identified was development of more off-road dirt trails for biking and running. So we're adding our first segment at Legacy, which should open here in the very near future. And finally, programs. We want to be very supportive of the cultural arts. So obviously we're putting up some visual art pieces in the parks, but we also have a full slate of activities at the Legacy Park Amphitheater every year, and then development of additional team programming. One thing I'd mention in the team programming We are really looking at esports. We are planning to offer some esports tournaments over the next 12 months. So if you have teams that like to game, that might be something to watch for. And then we want to continue to maintain our parks in such a great, in the highest possible manner. So we're, uh-oh, am I still on?
You are still on.
Okay, but my screen disappeared. And my presentation got lost there. And I'm almost at the end, so I don't know what happened right there. I had something pop up on my screen.
I promise it wasn't me. I wasn't really gonna.
I know, I just, can you see my screen now?
Yep, you're good.
Okay, because it says I'm sharing my screen again. That's a plus. Good. I don't know what happened. All of a sudden I got an error sign showed up on my screen and then everything just went off. So I think it was on my end. So let me try to get to the slide I was at. I'm almost done there. Talked about programs, and there it's going again. I don't know what's going on with my.
I can still see your screen that has programs and events up.
I know, but I can't advance the screen anymore, and I got a little error on my screen that says Microsoft PowerPoint has stopped working, and it just closed off. So, you know what? I'm gonna. I guess it's not gonna want me to finish. What I can tell you from the. So I'm gonna stop sharing this screen, right? And I'll put it back on video. I'm not sure. Okay. So hopefully you can see me now. But one thing I would mention is the sales tax. The quarter cent sales tax provides about $3.5 million a year. It would be interesting to see how this year pans out with the COVID-19. But that money goes to support our capital projects. We have identified about $65 million in capital projects over 15 years during the cycle of this 15-year sales tax. We think we'll probably generate around 55 million. So we're a little bit short on our commitments in comparison to our funding. So we're hoping that we'll be able to supplement that funding with partnerships, sponsorships, grant opportunities at the state and federal levels. And so those are techniques and tools that we've used in the past to be successful. And we are confident we're going to be able to deliver those projects and be successful over the next 15 years. So with that is the quick version. And I think I've stayed on schedule, Tricia. So I would be happy to answer questions the group might have. Hello?
I don't know. Does anybody have questions?
I have a question specifically about Pleasantly Park. You mentioned, I guess that was something that was kind of a priority. You were getting going with it, and then COVID kind of put a wrench in that plan. I was wondering how far along in the planning had you gotten before things kind of paused?
Okay, good question. Actually, we've got a master plan that's been completed. So we know exactly what we're going to do with that park. We had capital dollars set aside for that for FY21. We're kind of pulling back a little bit. We've got really what's going to make the project go or not is we have a grant request from the federal government for $250,000. If we're able to secure that grant, which we will not know until probably about September, if we secure that grant, then we're going to move forward with the project. If we can't secure that grant, then we're probably going to have to postpone that project probably about 12 months.
Thank you.
You're welcome. All right. Well, Tricia, I'm not seeing any additional questions. So I apologize for the glitch on my end with the software, but thank you very much for your time, and I will turn it back over to you.
All right, I do have a question for you.
Yes.
Are you guys planning on opening everything this summer? Put you on the spot.
I'll tell you what, if I had the answer to that, if I had a nickel for every time I was asked that question over the last few weeks, I'd be rich. What I can tell you is, I mean, we're still waiting for the county health department to provide the details of the remaining 3 phases. We know it's a 4-phase program reopening for our communities. They've released phase 1, which has been very limiting. I just received notification about 10 minutes before this meeting that we will probably be able to do some minimal openings of our community centers sooner than we thought. So yes, we are working diligently with the county to get things open as quickly as possible. We want to also make sure it's safe for our community. So the big questions become Camp Summit and Summit Waves. Those are probably the 2 biggest ones. Those are big summer programs that we have a lot of activity. Summit Waves, I think, I'm reasonably confident we're going to be able to open Summit Waves sometime this summer. It won't be in the next couple of weeks. It definitely won't be at Memorial Weekend, which is traditional. If we can get it opened in mid to late June or early July, I think that's maybe reasonable. Camp Summit is a little bit more problematic because of the number of kids we have. So we're still working with the county to see if we can have that program in some capacity for this summer.
That's good. My daughter just turned 11 last year. She aged out last year, so she's so happy that she got to end her time there.
Well, good.
And my stepdaughter works for the Parks Department, so that was the other part of me asking her. She's a lifeguard out there, so
we're going to try to get things open as quickly as we can, but of course we want to do it in a very safe and reasonable manner.
Right, definitely. Okay, well, thank you, Joe.
You're welcome. Everybody have a good evening.
You too. And I am not sure who's taking this for water. We have Jeff Thorne, and I lost, yep, Don Bennett. We still have him here. And then Jenny, I'm not sure how to say your last name.
Bishner.
Now she won't turn her camera on. I don't know which one of you guys are doing it. So I'm going to go ahead and turn my video off.
Okay.
Let you guys take over.
All right. I think we'll start just by introducing ourselves, and then we'll kind of tag team the presentation a little bit, and then have an opportunity to let you ask some questions if you have any as well for the water world. But I'm Don Bennett. I'm the account services manager for the utility. And so I supervise meter reading, customer service, and community relations.
I'm Jeff Thorne. I'm Assistant Director of Engineering for the utility. I manage the engineering aspects, the construction projects, and our capital improvements programs. And on here, but being shy, is Brent Boyce, and he's the Assistant Director of Business Services.
Yeah, he's my boss. So.
There you go. So do good.
And then we also have Jenny Bishoner, who is our community relations specialist. So she is our person that gets all of our graphics and everything that we have ready for creative services to go out, and goes to school presentations and things of that nature. So I'm going to share my screen here, and we'll get started with the presentation. Again, this presentation, like Parks, typically takes us about an hour to get through, so it is modified and trimmed down. But feel free to stop us at any time, or we can wait till the end and ask questions. Pretty flexible, so we just want to make sure we get everything that you have that's on your mind answered if we're able to do that. So, second. All right. So starting out, the history of the utility, Lee Summit was first incorporated in 1965. So definitely been around for a while. And it's kind of hard to think about what, water was like and how water was brought to the citizens prior to that time. But the first water system actually was completed in 1916 for the city. You can kind of see, and then it had that 600-gallon reservoir at Chiplin and Douglas. And Jeff, I don't know if you want to touch a little bit on that and how that worked at that time.
Well, we were still at that point purchasing water, but we would get 75,000 gallons per day in and stored. What you guys know as Sled Hill is the location where we've got a 600,000 gallon, where we had a 600,000 gallon reservoir. Now we got one there that's quite a bit bigger. But that was the first point of entry for water into our system as we originally bought the water.
The first sewer system that goes along with that came a few years later, but in 1925, and being able to do that. One thing that's certain, though, throughout like the city's history, the utility continues to plan for the future and make investments, as the city continues to grow. As you can imagine, the population at that time was next to nothing compared to where Lee Summit's at now. So definitely that planning is important in moving forward as the city grows and being able to do that. So one thing that I think is definitely a bragging moment and giving kudos for the utility and the leadership that's happened is the Moody's bond rating. And it's definitely one of those things. The credit position is very strong. It's an AA1 rating, is higher than the median rating of AA3 for water and wastewater systems nationwide. So definitely a strong point for the utility to be able to have that rating and doing that. The ISO Insurance Services Office rating, the Lee Summit Water System has the highest ISO rating that's available. So definitely should give you some peace of mind as well, that things are being ran the right way, and we're definitely looking at everything that we need to in terms in that area. One of the things, and we'll touch a little bit more on this later, is that the city actually is an enterprise fund. A lot of times it get confused. People get confused by that because they think that we get taxes, property taxes that come in that help fund the utility, and that's not true. We actually, all of our revenue is generated by our own fees and charges, so being able to do that. The water utilities will retire its outstanding debt at the end of 2021 and will cash flow finance the utility moving into the future. That's definitely another bragging moment for the utility as well, to be debt free and having that as well. So another great point. And for this next piece, the enterprise fund, which I was talking a little bit more about, this is kind of the numbers in a graph that Brent Boyce put together, and numbers makes him really happy. So he did a great job at this. But one thing that I wanted to point at over here is you can see that Lee Summit is actually very competitive in where we are with our rates. Now, you might hear some people might say, well, the water rates are pretty high, but this is actually an up-to-date model where we actually took all of the rates with our competitors in the Kansas City metropolitan area. And you can see that we're actually pretty competitive, and we're definitely not one of the most expensive. We're on the lower end. So definitely that's proud too, especially with the services that we're able to provide, but still keep the cost measurable and at a low cost for our citizens, and being able to do that as well. So next I'm going to pass it over to Jeff, who's going to talk to us about some of the critical facts for the utility.
All right. As Dom said, we've got a pretty competitive rate we do. Most of our money is spent on purchasing the water that we distribute and treating the wastewater that the city creates. The City of Lee Summit does no treatment of water or wastewater of any kind. We purchase all of our water from Kansas City and Independence through several different connection points. And we've got an emergency interconnect with the Tri-County Water Authority in case we have an issue with either of those two connections. We purchase about 3.5 billion gallons of water per year. Average demand is 9 million gallons of water per day. Peak day demand is somewhere around 26.5 million gallons. That's a summertime type demand when we're doing a lot of irrigation and that kind of stuff. And we currently have under contract 32.5 million gallons of water for any one given day. Those are purchase contracts. So those are our contract things with Independence and Kansas City. We do have competitive contract terms with them. We get wholesale prices from them. We're not paying what the City of Kansas City ratepayers pay for our water. That's how we can pass it on at a lesser cost than than they do to their own citizens. And then, but that cuts the other way in that we don't have representation on a lot of stuff. Now, if they go to raise rates, we get input on that, and we have certain contract provisions that allow us to push back if we think their rate increases are too much. But on the sewer side, we're actually part of a sewer district, and as being part of that district, we have seats on the board. So we help to control those situations. It's nice. It's a very good group. It's a group of cities in Jackson and Cass counties for the Little Valley Sewer District and Middle Big Creek Subdistrict to Little Loop. And we find it's a very workable relationship for us, and it keeps us out of the treatment business. The utility system is a good sized system. We've got over 600 miles of water and sewer pipes in the system, 5,500 hydrants, and we maintain those annually. We've got 10,000 manholes in the sewer system, and we've got 50 facilities around the system. That is the water towers and tanks. You'll see us out at Hook Tower now doing painting. We'll be at Ranson Tower, which you guys would know as Happy Tails Dog Park also this fall. So the dog park will be closed this fall because we've got to repaint that tank. We maintain those facilities, making sure that we've got up-to-date coatings and that kind of stuff so that our equipment lasts well into the future, and we plan to do that. Our capital improvements program is a pretty healthy endeavor also. In the next 5 years on the water and sewer, we're going to spend about $75 million in improvements on our systems of different types. That's replacing water lines, replacing sewer lines, doing updates to pump stations and water towers, and just generally making sure that we're up to date and we're doing the best practices in terms of maintaining our facilities and our infrastructure. That way it'll continue to last well into the future. For our personnel, we've got both union and non-union employees. We've got an administrative division, an engineering division, which I head up, business services, which has Dom, Brent, and Jenny in it, and our operations group. Our operations group are the guys you see out in the fields working on those main breaks and operating those pump stations. It's 65 full-time employees. So for a enterprise fund that is roughly in the terms of $40 million a year, we run it with 65 folks, and it operates 365 days a year, 24 hours a day, and 7 days a week. This is a map of roughly where our water and wastewater comes from and goes to. The blue lines are the water lines coming in, the dash lines. We get some of our water from the KCMO water treatment plant, which is on the Missouri River down by the downtown airport. And the other one that we get it from is the Courtney Bend water plant from Independence. And as you're driving across the 291 bridge going north, it's on the left on the south side of the river. And then our wastewater either goes north up to the Missouri River to Atherton, the Little Blue Valley Sewer Treatment District plant, or it goes out south and east to Pleasant Hill to the Middle Big Creek plant. The water comes in, it's connected into some pump stations, pushed into our tanks and reservoirs, and then fed out into our distribution system. The sewer collects into the valleys, drains down into pump stations, and gets put into the mains to leave to go north to the river. So it's one big water cycle. We're pulling water basically out of the river and we're putting it back in. Go ahead, Don.
So the last year you may have gotten a survey. The utility periodically will survey our customers. We definitely want to hear from you and get feedback on what's important, what's on your mind, what can we do better, and kind of make sure we have a way to track that. And so that way we can make sure that we're delivering also to what the citizens want. And one of the things that has come back every time is that water quality is definitely very important to citizens. And it's one of the things that the utility takes pride in being able to deliver that back at the same time. So not only do Kansas City and the places that we all get our water from, of course, they have all of their water quality and the things that they do to make sure that we're in regulation with the states and that we're doing everything that we're supposed to, but the utility also does things as well. So the utility actually takes 104 samples to monitor common bacteria monthly. So that's definitely always being done. Water samples are taken each time a new water line is installed. Every 3 years, water utilities monitors for lead and copper, or for lead and copper in the drinking water. So that's all definitely peace of mind in there that that's being done as well. And water utilities also samples for unregulated contaminants as required by the EPA every 5 years as well. So testing is being done on our end, and it's something that we continue to do and is definitely a priority in being able to do that as well. The Water Utility Advisory Board was actually developed, and it's actually a pretty unique thing, and I think that it's excellent that we have, but it's made up of 4 residential customers that reside within the city of Lee Summit, 1 residential customer that resides outside the city limits of Lee Summit, and then 1 local construction contractor or builder, 1 local real estate developer, and 2 commercial customers. And of course, the board has 9 members, and they're all appointed by the mayor. And it's pretty broad, and it covers all of our customers that we have. So we've got, you know, our residential customers, we've got the school district represented. So that way we make sure that everyone has a voice that kind of has a play in being able to do that at that board. And the purpose of the board is to provide rates for input on rates, fees, financial policies, the capital projects that Jeff talked about earlier that has been happening. So all that comes through the Water Utility Advisory Board, and those meetings are typically in December, and they kind of set things up for the next coming year and being able to do that. And it's definitely a great group that we have. And again, it's going back to, we want the feedback. We want to make sure that we're delivering the right, that what our citizens want ultimately overall. So one thing that we got back from the survey this last year was how you would prefer to pay your water utility bill. You could see this here that, you know, most people actually said they wanted to do it with a direct payment via ACH, by mail. You can see 20% also by the website. So those are our 3 biggest categories that you'd say that we have. So with that, we've listened and being able to do that. So coming soon, actually very soon, in the next week or so, we have the new utility pay system, and it's actually going to be more ways to pay, easier than ever for you, a brand new online portal that you can go in, take control, everything yourself, pay your bill online or by phone, make quick payments with a credit card or debit card. You also can pay your bills quickly and paperless, and view your paperless bills via email or text. So you just click that hyperlink, you can have it set up, and it'll take you right to your bill, which is a great feature to have. You also can set up a monthly auto pay as well via that portal and being able to do that. So definitely, you've probably seen something. The city's been blasting that on the social media. Also, we've had it in the newsletter. And so you'll continue to see it. There's been some buck slips that have been inside the bills as well. So we want to make sure that we're letting everybody know that this is definitely a great feature that's coming. It's something that it's kind of, you asked, we listened, and here's the product, and we're really excited to be able to bring that to you as well. So with that, is there any questions that anybody has? No questions for Team Water?
You guys have made them really quiet this time.
Hey, I actually, I always have a question. I got to have a question. So I'm wondering, when things open back up, because I would love to do a tour of the facility. I went to a meeting in the new building up there by Aldi, but of the actual water treatment plant, will you guys be offering tours of that later in the year?
We actually don't have the water treatment plant on our side. We get the water from Independence in Kansas City, and they're actually the ones that treat the water. So our facility, actually, the Water Utility Service Center, you're more than welcome to come tour anytime. Definitely contact me, but there's not that much to see there other than office space typically. But I know that they do tours, and I don't know, Jeff, maybe if you can speak to that more.
Yeah, Independence and Kansas City both do tours of their plants on occasion. I don't have any idea with the new stuff when that would be opened up, but I've been through both of them in the past with different groups, and yeah, they do the tours. It's just these days it's hard to say when anybody's going to let you into something like that.
Right.
All right, thank you. I wasn't sure if you guys did any coordination with that at all, so I'll just keep tabs with them on that one. Thank you.
Hey, but if you want to come see us in the building, I can give you a tour at any time.
Thanks. I'll take you up on that.
Are there any other questions? All right, I don't see any for you guys. For the class participants, I was going to see if you had questions about the information they sent out on doing the mock city council meeting. I have received a good portion of assignments on that. I will be sending out a packet with information, kind of what our city council receives. Though it's very large, so I'm gonna have to figure out if I can use a Dropbox or something to send that out for you guys to review. If you have questions on that, just let me know. We have a city manager, a city attorney, animal control officer, so we're doing good. So any other questions tonight? Okay, guys, I don't see any. Our next meeting will be next Thursday from 6 to 7 again, and we'll do creative services and fire. And I will see you all later. Have a great evening.